We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
That's right. If you want to learn how to turn that content into profit, just go to contentisprofit.com. Your first step is right there. Go download it. It's completely free. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And today we are back in the same place.
I know.
Yes.
Welcome back, Fonzie.
It feels good.
I can feel your energy.
I appreciate it. I can feel my own energy.
There you go.
It is great. But today, wow. Okay.
You got this. You got this.
I need to retake the flow and everything. But what makes me more exciting than being here with you is our guest.
Yes.
I'm so excited for today's guest. They are very dear to our heart. And today we're actually going to be talking about part of their publishing journey, which in part, hopefully, helps you discover your publishing journey.
That's right. Fuzzy, do we have a sponsor today?
Indeed we do.
I heard something about modern media teams. What are those?
Modern media teams, indeed. Wow, you threw a little bit of a curveball in there for me because I wasn't planning for that one. But I love it, right? And for those listening and you're asking yourself, what are modern media teams? Well, guess what? We are a modern media team. Content momentum. So if you produce a long-form piece of content just like this one that you're listening to or watching, and you want to turn it into value-packed, bite-sized assets, right? Nowadays, every company needs someone that can do that for them, because every company technically needs to be two companies, the one in their industry and a media published company, right? But we're not talking about media like the news. Nobody got time for that negativity all day over there, right? So we need to be in charge of our own message and share it with the world. That's what the modern media teams are. And Content Momentum is your modern media team that comes and plugs into your business so we can help you create all those beautiful assets so then you can share it with the world and get yourself some new clients. So if you're interested, please dive into the DMs at BizBrosco on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, everywhere. Yeah, we're there.
Dude, you did good. I literally threw you under the bus to make sure that you were here. You were here. You located. Good energy.
That was a big curveball.
Awesome. Guys, go ahead and follow the podcast because these episodes drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You don't want to miss them because there's incredible value for incredible guests. And go ahead and follow us on social media at BizBrosco.
That is right. And if you find this episode impactful, which I'm sure you will because today's guests are amazing, and if they help you get one step closer to your goal, or if you know of somebody that their message can help them get one step closer to their goal, please don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Happy Hump Day! Today we have another 2v2, and this couple is very dear to our hearts. We have been working together for a while now, and we have seen how they have grown throughout some of the most challenging times.
That is right. Today's guest actually launched their business in the middle of COVID and have already helped hundreds of families improve their relationships. I just thought about this. Well, not now, but when I was writing the intro, right? Have they also improved our relationship as brothers? Epiphany moment.
That's good. Nah, maybe, but that's not all. They help family update their operating system, creating deeper connections between couples and children, and making an intentional plan for their family's future. A big part of their business has been, you guessed it right, publishing. Today, we'll dig deeper into that journey.
Oh, yeah, baby. Let's go. Please welcome host of the One Relationship podcast and rockstar couple, Kate and Tanner Wendell. Welcome, guys.
Hey. You guys are so much fun.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I think, it's because you guys bring the energy too. We were talking behind the screens in here and you guys were sharing all these awesome things you've been up to, and we got super inspired.
Yeah.
My only issue with the intro is I was waiting for the minion analogy, the content minions. I love that from last time.
I appreciate it. My plan was to use that until my brother threw a curveball in there, and I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that.
We'll update you guys a little bit on what's happening. We were chatting a little bit, hyper focus, right? And I just wanted to test him to see if he was actually paying attention today. Yeah. So and he did. So thank you guys again. Super honored to have you back on the show. We're huge fans. Obviously, we've been working together for quite a bit now, but huge fans of what you guys are doing, especially on the family side, right? Like, obviously we're family, right? We're family. So a lot of what you guys talk about, we've actually, done it here in the office, and I've taken some of what you guys have done also with my wife Katie and my little Luca. So I want to say thank you publicly, because what you guys are doing is awesome, and I know that you guys have something that is launching a week. Don't spoil it just yet. We're gonna share the surprise a little bit later. But if
what a hook!
Ooh,
what a
baby,
hook.
Yeah, I know this is gonna be so good. So why don't you guys share a little bit? It could be like a quick recap, because obviously people can go back and listen to your episode. But a quick recap on how you guys started to work together, and especially with the family operating system, with that, which I feel like is such a cool name. Such a cool name.
Yeah, well, thanks to Tanner on that one. He had the download from God one morning, waiting for his daughter at parkour, and the family OS came to him. When we got together, we were at an event that was around sharing our story and learning how story can really impact your business. And we both had online businesses that we were a part of, and wanted more. We wanted to grow more. So we had that common ground, which was really so special as we became friends, and then realized, like, hey, I love you. Let's go get married and start a family. Yeah. And that was great, because we had that common ground. We knew that moving forward in our relationship, we wanted growth. We knew that we wanted to always find a way to challenge ourselves and to just do more. And as we were we combined our online businesses together, because they were separate companies or separate businesses at that point. And when we brought it together, it just became just chaotic. It was just so overwhelming. There was just so much that was involved with it to really make it work the way we wanted it to work. And we were also a new family. We had a blended family where, Tanner's daughter was with us, and then we had our first of our own. And so as we were trying to put that all together, we're like, this is just crazy. And so as we just started to work out, well, what do we really want to do? Like, what excites us? What's the thing that we love so much to share with people, where we feel like we've got our own experience to teach from? And that came down to relationships. It came down to relationships and couples and how they, operated together. Yeah. And it's just evolved from there, where we started with coaching married couples to now just building this family operating system. Wow. So here we are.
Well, whoosh, welcome. I mean, this is awesome. Okay, I first I want to say you guys are incredible hard workers, and the fact that you guys blended families and blended businesses together, holy moly. Like, I can't even imagine, just running one business at the time and, running one family at the time is bonkers. And the fact that you guys did both and are doing it consistently and very successfully is very impressive. So that's one of the elements of why we admire you guys so much. And, we've been from the very beginning in our relationship with you guys on your messaging, right? And it has evolved. And there's a term that we use as content evolution. And you guys are literally the case study of that, because you guys have pushed through publishing, discover your message, through that, and being completely honest and open with your community, with your people. And it's incredible to see that journey and what took you to that point, right? So obviously, so tell me a little bit about why publishing, right? Because we've encountered a lot of entrepreneurs that want to have everything set, ready to go, and then start publishing, right? And I remember, Tanner, having a conversation with you that you were like, man, I love the fact that we can hold each other accountable, right? For the content, and then for us on the back end to implement and take action. And we've seen your progress, right? We've seen your evolution. It has been incredible. So what does publishing really means to you guys? We have our own definition, but I'm really curious to see how does that work for your process, for your community, for you guys internally? How does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we met right because of a common mentor that sort of beat that into our head. Hey, just start publishing, and it sounds easier than it is, and you also don't need to overcomplicate it, right? And I think that's for me where I was like, is it a podcast? Is it video? Is it this? I would randomly do Facebook Lives without a real plan. And so I think what I realized out of that, though, is that especially for me, the way that my brain processes, I can think a lot of thoughts in my brain and they all seem really good, but then they get lost in translation and actually getting out to the world. And I used to write like really long form post on Facebook. Sometimes I still do that, but it would literally take me like an hour to write a Facebook post. And I'm like, oh, edit, this, does that sound good? What about that? Is that sentence too long? And what I realized is that, well, I can either sit down or we can sit down and spend an hour crafting the perfect social media post that hopefully 3% of our friends list actually sees. Or we could sit down for an hour and either have a conversation with ourselves, one of us do a video or do an interview with somebody. And the content that comes out when you're forced to stare at the camera with this little light on it and just talk is so much more dynamic and interesting than if you attempt to like perfectly craft a social media post or write the right blog article or whatever. That's just was my experience, that once we got into motion and doing it, the things that came out were far greater, in depth, and things that I'm like, oh, I know what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes when we run our own businesses and we're in our own little world, we're like, I don't know, you can get imposter syndrome. You're not really sure if it's going to land with people, and just getting it out there and then getting a reaction, whether it be live on an interview like this or post, if from the podcast or the content that you guys create, is way more helpful than just stewing in your head and working on the perfect post. And so I think that's been a huge part for us, where we've really, like you said, we've evolved to realize that when we first found you guys and started working together, we had a completely different idea in mind. And then that evolved a little bit, and it's since evolved then, and it's kind of evolving even more. And I think that's thanks to us just getting in front of the microphone and camera and talking about what we're passionate about and what we're seeing in our business and what we want to do different in the world.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I've noticed over the years when I do publishing, I find my voice. I find it is that I want to share that then resonates with people. So it's learning from action. Like you have to just sort of do it in order to figure out what works and what doesn't. Like, Luis, what you had said at the beginning, that their entrepreneurs are like, oh, I got to have it all figured out, and then I'm going to start publishing. It's like, but you're not going to actually know really everything and what that looks like until you actually start doing it. And then you really find your voice of what works.
Yeah, absolutely. We often use an analogy that is, imagine you're in a dark room with a little candle, and every time you share your message, that candle just gets brighter and brighter and brighter until you can see the entire room. That's kind of like how it feels publishing at first. You're like, I have no idea where I'm going with this. Like, I have no idea what I'm sharing here. But the more you say it, like, the more clarity you get. And it's crazy, right? We have seen what my brother said, the content evolution, right? And the internal evolution that comes with publishing. Just like all those false beliefs that we had, like Tanner mentioned, right? That imposter syndrome that we had. I don't think it ever goes away, but now you're more confident to act regardless of. And it's amazing to see how your thoughts starts to turning into actual sentences and maybe actual ideas and frameworks that can help the people on the other side. And you're like, wow, this is actually great. And maybe the first time you said it, it didn't make any sense, right? Like today's a sponsor message, right? That curveball that my brother threw at me. But I'm sure in 3 episodes from now, we're going to have nailed it down, right? And I think it's the same thing, but so many people are afraid of those first steps. And I'm sure it's the same thing when it comes to the relationship, the family OS, right? What, I'm curious, what is it that make people so afraid of those first steps? And how did that look for you guys when it came to getting in front of the camera? Tanner, you mentioned you used to write this long post, but then it was different to be in front of the camera, right? I think the difference too is the level of exposure, in my personal opinion, right? Like, people are seeing your face, your raw emotions. If you mess up, and you can sometimes in your face, you're like, oh my gosh, I messed up, right?
Right.
And we're a little bit uncomfortable with maybe what the other person on the other side might be thinking. But I'm curious on your experience, guys. What was it that first step did, and what was that resistance you guys faced in there?
So I think so the first step and really the idea that we had, we're like, oh, we're going to do a summit, right? Like, and it started with let's go interview people, because that seemed like the easier thing to do, right? It's a way to get ourselves out there where we're sort of sharing our message, but we have shared authority because of the people we're interviewing, and we're learning. I mean, I think one of my favorite things about doing, interviews or kind of really anything where you're publishing, if you look at it this way, is learning out loud, right? If you just share what you'll learn, if you'll go find people, I think you guys do a phenomenal job of that with your show, to learn out loud and to find other industry experts and leaders that you want to learn with. And quite frankly, having a show or a podcast or a reason for you to connect with somebody, I'm sure you guys have experienced this, but it's likely the only reason or way that you would have gotten contact with certain people that otherwise, like, you wouldn't just get them on a phone call and be like, hey, let me pick your brain, or let's talk about this. It's like, no, let's do an interview. So we started that interview style, and we're like, we want to get our message out through the method of interviews, and we know that we don't know everything. And I think if you can approach it that way, that I don't know everything, but I've learned some things and I want to share, and I want to share with other people some of the mentors that I've learned from. Those can really just be the seeds of starting, whatever your publishing journey is. Yeah. I think the resistance is a phenomenal word, actually. And there's a book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art that talks about resistance, which I think anybody that does anything in business, content creating should keep by their, desk side or somewhere handy, because it's a short little read where you can just, he talks about resistance. He talks about the fact that you getting in your own head is just a form of resistance and judgment. And I think when you're able to allow, what I've realized is, like, when I'm able to allow that judgment of myself, disintegrate, not dissolve, but disintegrate, there's some really great things that can come out. And we've had times where we talk and we click, the stop button, and it's like, never say that again. Or like, oh, that was really great. It's gone both ways where we're like, that was horrible. We shouldn't talk about that or say that way. And then there's other things where it's like, wow, that was amazing. I can't believe that just came out of us. And I think stacking enough of those situations together is really what helps fight that resistance, right? Because then you have proof to say, no, this is actually more valuable to just do it and be a little uncomfortable than to not and just sit here in my thoughts and be miserable that I feel like I've got something to say and I don't know how to get that message out there.
And I would just add to that, if you rethink or think in a different way of what failure is, to me, failure is not because it went wrong, right? Like, we've had those interviews, or we did a podcast and we're like, oh my God, let's not do that ever again. That to me isn't a failure. That to me is a lesson, right? We had to do it in order to say, okay, we don't want to do it that way again, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to ask that question again, or whatever that looks like, right? So I see failures, quote unquote failures, as lessons.
Yeah.
So I can learn from them and say, okay, I want to do this differently, or not do this again, or what that looks like. Because then when I get into that position, in the future, it'll look differently, right? It's going to look more effective. And it's because I've learned from what didn't work. The only failure that I actually think is a failure is when you actually just quit on what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you just be like, hands up, forget it, I'm not going to do that. And quite frankly, that sometimes is a driving force for me, when the two of us are just like, well, we could take the easy road here, and we could just say, you know what? Like, this is a lot of work. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to keep building this business. I don't know that I want to keep worrying about a podcast. Like, I just want to be a mom. I'm just going to take care of the kids and, just do that and whatever. And it's like, but then that to me that's failure. I've given up on the actual gifts and talents that, I've been given, Tanner's been given. And that's to me just a selfish thing. Like, why wouldn't we share these things and help other families improve and better themselves? So that to me is what failure is. So I think if we can start to rethink what failure looks like, and look at these as more lessons to just keep yourself moving forward, afraid of it anymore, and the resistance will go away.
That's
or
awesome.
Diminish.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very powerful, and I want to highlight the passion that you guys are bringing to the table with what you guys do, right? Because it's no easy to deal with what you guys are dealing in your private life, with merging everything, right? Like both like very different lives into a business too, and then turning around and helping and serving a lot of people, right? Like that has a ton of value. And, we're number one supporters of that, because then you're there, you're helping, you're turning around, you're helping. We've been there. We've been in a position where we needed that help, right? Immediate. And we're like, man, like, who can we go to that has felt the same pains that we have, that have walked the path, and then we can do that. And I feel that that's exactly what you guys are doing with the people that you're bringing in your journey and adding incredible value. So I want to say thank you for actually going out and sharing your message and being so public about it and actually helping these people. Now, lately we've been talking a lot about frameworks, about that underlying structure behind anything really in our processes. Like, I feel like now I see everything through frameworks. And I think I read the other day a quote from Alex. It's like, you don't make a decision unless it goes through a framework, right? And I'm like, then I started seeing like these shapes. It's crazy, right? So obviously on the topics that we talk about, on the processes, on how we create content and produce content, on even the operation of the business. Later today, we're sitting down on what is the framework on an operations side of our business, for example, to make sure that we can simplify it, right? So through this conversation, you guys have exposed some of those with you guys. I mean, the fact of reframing failure, right? Like, that is a framework on how do I operate when that happens, right? So through that journey, like, what are some of the lessons? What are some of the challenges that you guys have seen? Maybe not in publishing, right? Like, maybe in publishing and your business side of things, like creating this new thing that you guys are launching in like 2 weeks, for example. Like, what are some of those things? And have you guys experienced that at the framework level? Are you guys working with it? How has been that evolution when merging those two businesses, right?
I think so one, I think as a creative, right, it's like, is anybody going to want this? and I think that I want to just make one note on that in terms of the way that we run our business and produce content, not from a publishing promotion standpoint, but from a training standpoint, is that the majority of our content is done live. So we do that in the form of challenges, which are live trainings over the course of usually a week. We're launching a new 8-week course that will be basically a live training with a hybrid one-on-one components to help people on the back end of that course. And so I think, we started down the path of creating a course, right? And we're just like, let's go create a course. And it's like, but I don't know if anybody's going to want that. I don't know if it's the right thing. And there's different schools of thought on this. And I think, whatever works for somebody is what works for them. But for us, we know that getting that live feedback, being able to train people in real time and interact more in a community versus like, hey, let's just go shoot some videos, put them up on a site and hope some people watch them, because the reality is that, those are single digit numbers of people that actually go through and complete an entire course in the online, training world. So that's, I guess you could say, it's not necessarily a framework, but it's part of our frameworks when we're thinking about how are we going to deliver a training or a message to a group. And then obviously a large part of our business is, the one-on-one side and working with people. I hope that helps. I kind of forget what was the second part of the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of went crazy. Go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
No, you do the question.
So the second part of the question is have you recognized through execution, right, different frameworks or structure to facilitate the execution, right, of your business or your challenges or your teaching, right? And if you have, what are some of those that maybe people in similar position like you guys on the relationship side or on the business side can start applying in their daily lives to get that momentum and getting, continue learning and continue to improve?
Yeah. So I think one of the key things for us, whether it's in a short challenge, a one-on-one session, or this 8-week group training, is generally people aren't going to invest even their time if it's free if they're not problem aware to some extent. Right. Yeah. And so we always spend, whether it's a one-on-one session or whatever it is, a group, really diving into okay, most people are quote unquote problem aware. Oh, my marriage isn't working. My kids aren't listening to me. My husband, I don't feel heard by my husband. But I think it's important to go a few layers deeper. There's a concept called the 7 whys, right? And you ask somebody, hey, why do you want this? Okay. And you're like a 2-year-old and you just, why, you kind of why people to death. Yeah. But we found that that's really important to get to the heart of it, because generally, especially in our business, people are wanting to get out of some type of pain. And it may seem counterintuitive, but you kind of have to take them a little bit deeper into that pain before you can get out of it. Otherwise, people just want to skip past hey, just give me the solution, just give me the thing, give me the tactic. But they miss really that underlining pain of why did you get here and why is it important that you move out of here? Yeah. I'll just say, while we're on that topic, we do coaching for relationships and families. And we get the question often, well, are you therapists? And no, we're not therapists. And so what's the difference between therapy and coaching? And we think there's a great need for therapy. There's probably more need than there is, more demand than there is supply for therapy. But in our experience, what we found with therapy is that sometimes they can dwell too much on the past and just kind of keeping people, stuck and swirling. And that's a broad generalization about an industry. I realize that. But it's important to get into the pain and look at the past, but it doesn't really do any good to stay there, right? So we like to get people into, okay, be clear on the pain, but then let's get clear on the destination.
Yeah.
And I don't, do you want to talk about destination?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say that, as far as framework goes, that's really those first two steps of understanding what isn't working, where is this coming from? The why do you want that? Why do you want that? And we kind of joke with the SNL skit with the girl who's got, she's talking to a therapist and she's got a nail in her head and she's all upset and whatever. And it's not about the nail on the head, right? It's not about your husband doesn't take the garbage out. It's
Oh, I think
we are back.
I think
we got you back, guys.
We lost you guys there for a second.
We were
that was a quick second.
Kate, I was just gonna say that was an incredible use of a hook. It's not about the tell us more, please.
Not on purpose, but yeah, but just
So
understand.
got to tell them, because now they got an open loop in their head.
Oh,
It's
where
not
did we-
about the.
Oh, it's not about the nail in the head, right?
Yes.
It's
not
a
about,
video. Just
it's
YouTube. It's not about the nail.
It's not about the nail. It's an SNL skit, and it's not about your husband not taking out the garbage, right? Like, it goes deeper than that. So you want to just understand, like, where are these things coming from? Why do you feel the way you feel? And really understanding that. And so we take some time in there, but then, like Tanner said, we've got to move forward, and we don't want to stay stuck in the past and harp on these things. We are solution focused. We are future focused. And so we want people to think, well, where are you going? What is it that you want for your marriage and for your family, and where are you heading, and making a plan for that, being very intentional about the future plan and moving forward. So those are like the first two things that we really start to dive into, so that like, let go of the past, work that, and then start moving forward and having a plan for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think clarity is so important when it comes to doing anything. And I believe most people don't take the time to search for that, right? And it happened to us, right? Literally this week, we just had a call with one of our mentors, and we were talking about the topic of clarity, right? And the topic of prioritizing things inside of our business, and that the way we have prioritized is because maybe we didn't have enough clarity in certain aspects, right? Which is very interesting, because then you're like, wow, I maybe need to do some thinking. And I feel like sometimes we're just going too fast with the flow, right? We're living in a super fast-paced society where we just want things quick and we just want to get them done. But to gain that clarity, sometimes we just need to sit down and think, right? Or even better, go with you guys and sit down and do it together, right? I believe talking it with somebody that has already done what you want to do is probably one of those greatest things that you can do to find clarity around the topic. And, going on the topic of clarity, I'm curious about the clarity that you guys have gained through the publishing, right? And
I'm so glad you asked that.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, because I was going to say, like, I think that to come full circle, that publishing, like kind of how I said before, like you get clarity, you figure out what you want and what you don't want, based on publishing, like what works and what doesn't. And so I feel like that's been a huge help. Like we've published and look, like I'm not great at it. Like I'm the one that's like doing the publishing. That's my job. It's not his job. And like some days like I'm horrible at it. And that's okay, right? To me, it's not a failure.
Sorry, Kate. I want to fact check you. You're not terrible. You're improving, right? It's like you're improving. It's a work that we got to put every single day. But on the main publishing, like we're talking about like the big ideas, right? The macros, right? Like not the action of like sending the content out for now, right? That's coming. But on those big ideas, right? I think you guys gained, like Fonzie said, massive clarity on it. We have, like in our own journey as well. So yeah, sorry, I just want to throw that.
Oh no, and
I
appreciate you saying that. I mean, we can be our own worst critic, right? So I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, I got to do this better. But I also realize like this is a continued lesson. I'm continuing to learn how I'm going to make it work and use what, the audience wants. And, we just recently had another to like say, hey, my audience doesn't want this. They want more of that. So let's like shift to look like this instead. And because we were posting a certain way, we got clarity of what they wanted and what they didn't want. And so then we can start to make that shift. So I think publishing really helps to just give that clarity, because you'll start to see what your audience wants and what they don't want. So you know how to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Tanner, go ahead.
I want to add one thing in there, because it all ties into whether whether it's being accountable to somebody for your relationship or marriage, like our clients, or being accountable to somebody for your publishing your content, like we are to you guys. I think we all need each other in different capacities.
Yes.
And I think that for us, we can, not very easily, but very easily, for lack of a better term, help another couple see their blind spots and gain clarity on what they want for their family and maybe what's not working. And we have we talk to on an almost weekly basis that helps us with our marriage and our family, and also what we're seeing with our clients and where we're going with our business. And we have you guys to help us with our content. And we have a number of other people in our lives that, quite frankly, build some uncomfortable pressure from time to time. But I think that's the only way that you grow and move, is if you have that external, call it accountability, support, whatever.
Yeah.
But where we see people and where we get in trouble and where we see other people get in trouble is in isolation. And when you shut down and when you block people out and when you think that, well, nobody cares, or what I have to say isn't valuable, or my marriage and family is, like it's beyond repair. And sometimes I've experienced this when you have an issue that you've sort of made it into a bigger issue in your, maybe it is, you can have some shame and guilt with that. And that creates a barrier of actually getting help. But I think that we all need each other. And when we lean into like, what do we really care about and how do we want to serve people? That's where we get to be of service to others, and then vice versa. You guys get to be of service to us because you're putting your capes on with your content superpowers.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I agree with you on the sense of the importance of objective points of views, right? I think sometimes we're just so close into what we're doing and our things that when we have this new idea coming from somebody else, right, just like it can spark some sort of awareness, right? And like you're saying, when people isolate themselves, now you're pretty much not allowing any of these things that can give you either, whether that is a spark of hope, right, if you're in a dark place, or a new idea to create something new, a new framework, who knows what. But I think it's so important to have that environment right next to you that can help you out, just build up on whatever you already have on your plate. So I appreciate you mentioning that, that you have people that you work on for your relationship too and everything, because I feel like sometimes, the audience might see you and they're like, oh, they're perfect, right? And guess what? Not at all. Like very far from the truth, right? Like we're just like humans. We need, the help that we are giving as well. We need help for other parts of our life as well. So it is so important to receive those objective point of views, and they'll just help you grow.
Yeah. So guys, sorry, go ahead. If you have anything else to add, this has been incredible. I just want to say, where can people find you? Where can people go and take part of this new thing? Tell us a little bit what you guys are building right now, because it's gonna be so good.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we've really, again, coming back to clarity, we've really recognized how working with couples has led us to build more than just marriage coaching, right? And we really want to create a family operating system for people. What came to Tanner that I think is just so powerful is that people will update their phones, a couple of times a year, right? A few times a year. How many
every week right now?
Well, yeah, lately it's right. And we're still, and most families are still just operating on these old ways of thinking and ways of doing things that have been from their parents and their grandparents and just all these generations back that may not necessarily apply to the current times, right? And 2021 and that kind of thing. So we want to help give just that updated operating system to families. So that's what we're, the overarching, that's what we're building. And we're starting now where we see the women, we see the wives taking a little bit more action than the guys.
Let's be honest, a lot more.
A lot more action. Okay.
Yeah,
I want to be nice.
No disrespect to the men in the room.
No, I agree 100% with you. And
Yeah.
Katie will love you for what you just said. Just say now. Full credit to her.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's also just part of how we're made, right? You know, women just take on certain things and take on sometimes more. You know, we take on more from, and especially now as business women and being mothers, and you know, there's just a lot of things where men are just made differently, and we're made so beautifully for the uniqueness that we are. But women are really taking more of that lead on making some of the changes. So, and quite frankly, we're also learning, and part of our clarity is that we as husband and wife, but also in business together, like have to play to our strengths. Yep. And this is just a great thing to, you know, for any marriage, right? Play to your strengths, right? Tanner's really good with, you know, the behind the scenes things and the tech stuff. And I'm better in front of the microphone. Like my life has been in front of, you know, in radio. So I'm going to lead the podcast, and, you know, I'm going to lead women now into our next challenge, and just create a community of women where we can support and teach each other. So that's what we have going on. And our next challenge is called Curb the Chaos. Because one, life is chaotic right now, but certainly within your household, it can be chaotic. We know our house is chaotic on a regular basis, and just really how to work through that. So it's a challenge for women, for the mothers and the wives out there who just need to figure out how to curb that chaos, right? And just kind of know how to work through it, right? Because the chaos isn't going to actually go away, but it's how you handle yourself in that. So, and that starts on Monday. It starts on Monday on the 22nd. And you can register right at curbthechaosnow.com. And would love to have as many women as we can get in there to just learn how to just make some small little tweaks, have a few small tangible things that they can take with them and implement into their family and into their life that will help them feel like they're just a little bit calmer.
And we've got a couple of great guest speakers, always giving away prizes in the challenge. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then the podcast is The One Relationship, theonerelationship.com. You can go there, but you can find it on anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Apple, Stitcher. I think there's like 24 places that you can listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it's like
so,
your favorite platform, guys. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah, those are the two main focuses right now. And as Kate said, you're catching us literally in the evolution and creation process of Family OS.
Yeah.
So there will
That's
be
awesome.
more to come on what exactly Family OS looks like.
That's exciting. I love the analogy of the phone. Literally this morning, I went to my app store to check on what apps needed like an update and whatnot. 51 updates my phone did just today, right? So looking
Well,
back.
and if I can just soapbox on that real quick, because you said that, like, my watch has an OS. This computer has an OS.
Yep.
Our phone has an OS. Like now, refrigerators have an OS. Like cars. If you've got a new car, you know your car has an OS. Like literally, our lives are being run by things that have operating systems, but we're not operating our life with an operating system. And that was the download that was given to me a few months ago, and it really came from our one-on-one coaching clients and sitting and reflecting on, okay, what are the commonalities, real quick to tie in your framework, what are the commonalities that we're seeing between these couples that are causing problems? And the majority of it was, we're really just talking about their history, their historical templates of how they were raised clashing. And somebody has a preference of doing it this way, and the husband wants to do it this way, the wife wants to do it this way. And that was a majority of the things that we were seeing at that time and continue to see. Is it's literally just your backgrounds clashing. And you get to make that decision of, do you want to continue that way? Like, is it worth fighting for your historical family template, or do you actually want to create a new template? And probably 90% of what you got is working. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
But like, what do you want to do with that 10% that you need to evolve and update to live and raise a family in the 21st century? Because it's different even 10 years ago, 20 years, like let alone 30, 40, 50 years ago. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's our heart there.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's so
love it.
good.
It does feel like we're letting other operating systems run our life, and just by just allowing that, you're just giving them so much power.
Yeah.
And you're not taking the time to actually operate yours, right? You're just pretty much going with the flow. So I love what you guys are building here. I'm 100% sure you guys are going to help a lot of people, a lot of couples. So congrats on what you guys are doing.
I am so excited, and we're marker geeks, right? I'm like so in love with the program and the name, the Family OS, and then the analogy just was like that one thing that made it completed. I was like, it totally makes sense, right? Like, because I see it, right? Like with me and my wife, my wife is Canadian, I'm Venezuelan. The historical templates are completely different. Like from each other is crazy, right? And I've seen it as you were explaining the situation. I'm putting myself and I invite every listener right now, go back to your relationship and see what those templates are. The second like this conversation happens and you listen to this, it's gonna make sense. And I'm like, yes. I mean, just last week, this thing just happened. Bam, bam, bam. I'm like, okay, what are the things that we need to improve, right? And maybe because we're in this like journey as well as an entrepreneurs, maybe I'm personally more aware of it. But I can totally see when people are not in this continually growing like mode, right? How it can be ignored. Right, like it's like everything else first, and then I'm already so tired that I can't take care of myself, and it's backwards. We got to take care of ourselves, of our relationships, so everything else flows. So I think what you guys are doing is incredible. Thank you guys for bringing it up to market. You guys are gonna help so many people. This is so exciting. Thank you for sharing here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. We love being on here.
Thank you guys. And before we go, last two questions. The action
Why are you
point,
asking me?
I don't know, because you usually make those. So I'm like, I'm gonna take
take
the
ownership,
initiative.
Fuzzy.
We're updating the operating system of Content is Profit, and I am the better version now of the questions, the updated version.
The better version. Okay.
So okay, Tanner, what is an action point for people? Let's see this question twofold. First, what is something people can do in their life, right, with their families, to move, let's say, their operating system one step to updating it in a proper way? And then what is one action step that they can take to improve in their publishing journey?
I'll take the first one. Okay. So I think the biggest thing, and as Luis on my left side was saying about his personal example with his wife, if you can remove yourself and stop taking your relationships so personally. They are personal because they're people and it involves you. But if you can just do your best to step back for a minute or 5, maybe an hour, and look at it objectively and just say, okay, if something's not, look at why. Right. It's something I'm doing, something she's doing. So many couples get caught in, I'm right, you're wrong, my kids are doing this. Everybody wants to be right. And my favorite thing around that is you can either be right or you can be happy. So I would hope for you to choose happiness. It doesn't mean getting walked on by other people, but it means like set down the need to be right. Remove yourself from the situation. Look at it objectively. And then I like to think of my relationships like we're tending a garden together. And if we have a garden, I need to bring seeds and she needs to bring water, and we need to hoe the weeds and we need to make sure that it's taken care of.
Yeah.
But we're both responsible for that garden that is our marriage and our relationship. and you need to make a decision. What do you want to plant in that garden, right? Are you planting tomatoes? Are you planting cucumbers? What are you planting in that garden? And know that if you don't make a decision, the only thing that's going to grow is weeds. And if you can just remove yourself from feeling so personal and being right, and just kind of, I like that visual of a garden.
Wow.
And whatever that is in your life, it could be your kids, it could be your spouse, it could be any relationship. But I think that's very helpful for people to be able to just remove themselves from the moment and look at it objectively.
I love
and
it.
decide what they want.
I love it. Before you answer the second part of the question, Kate, sorry. Quick little anecdote here. Like that just resonated with me because yesterday I had a little episode with my girlfriend, right? We just came back from her parents and we had an amazing time, but yesterday we were exhausted and we got sushi. And while I'm eating, I have this piece of sushi, the last piece of my favorite roll on the table. And I told her, babe, do you want this last piece? And she's like, no, I'm good, thank you. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to leave it for my last bite because I love enjoying the last bite, right? Guess what? As I'm eating other stuff, waiting for my last bite to be extremely delicious, my girlfriend comes and she goes like this and eats it, right? And I am like, babe, what did you just do? I'm like, that was my last bite. And she's like, how's that a big, like, why is that a big deal? I'm like, I mean, it's a big deal to me. I asked you if you wanted it and you said no, right? And that just like, this discussion just started, right? And I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad or upset. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm not mad. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but like, I love the last bite. Usually when I'm eating, I leave the most delicious thing for the last bite. But I've never shared that with her, right? So I was like, I didn't expect you to know, but like just for next time. And she's like, boy, why? Yeah, she's like, why is this a big deal? Like, you're so selfish. And I was like, how am I selfish? I ask you, right? But it's so funny because the discussion was around who's right. Right at that moment, I can recognize that I was discussing to be right, and I mean, not 100% because I'm not her, obviously, but from my point of view, it looked like she was discussing to be right as well. So now looking at it, I'm like, wow, I would have chose to be happy, right? And it was cool because literally like 2 minutes later, she like we solved it. I was like, yeah, it's okay, babe, no worries.
I got the solution, Fonzie.
But what?
Other than that, obviously listening to Tara and Kate, just put the last bite in your pocket. She will not grab it.
Trust me, you don't want to have sushi in your pocket. But yeah, like this just resonated because yes, that is obviously a very small scenario, but that happens to many different scales throughout our relationship, and that has happened to me with her in so many other scenarios. So it's a great reminder.
And I want to commend you because you said, hey, I've never shared this with you before, so I want you to know this now for moving forward, where many people would just be, they'd be upset and it would create this big brouhaha, and and then you don't really like the other person doesn't understand why this person like where you were at least like, hey, like that just messed up the end of my meal, but you need to know something about me, right? And now moving forward. So I think like that's what I think people need to pay attention to. It's like, hey, have I we talk about expectations and unspoken expectations. Yes. I mean, we go into all that kind of stuff, right? And it's just like, making sure that you're verbalizing what it is that you want or why you want something so that the other person can get on board with you, right? Like like there are things for the two of us where, he doesn't have to like the same things that I like, but he at least acknowledges and appreciates the situation because like, hey, I know it's important to you. I know that you like this. And so therefore, I'm going to support you in it because I know it's important to you,
Absolutely.
and vice versa.
Absolutely.
Final point on that. Very few things are right or wrong. Like there's the obvious, there's things, but very few things are right or wrong. We have preferences, right? Yeah. You prefer to enjoy that last bite and you work that up in your mind and your girlfriend's like, I don't know, I have a a preference to just eat what's on the table because I'm still hungry. You know, like one minute I told you I didn't want it, and the next minute I was still hungry, so I ate it. Like,
Gotta eat faster, Fonzie.
Changed my mind.
I was so pumped up. Let me tell you, like when I asked her and she said she didn't want it, and I was like, yes. In my mind, I was like, it's gonna be a very delicious last bite, and I love it, guys. Thank you so much. And I just so you know, I use all the time the expectations or one-sided commitments. Every time I'm like, I love that. Since I heard that from you guys, I'm like, wow, that is so important because so many people have expectations about so many different things,
Right.
and then they just find themselves disappointed, right? So I mean, that could be a topic of conversation for another day. So
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
the last
we're
time-
about to open up part 2 of this conversation.
And I was gonna say the last time we talked, you didn't have a girlfriend. You're like, oh, this is, you know, and we were talking about things. You're like, oh, this is gonna be great when, you know, like, you know, I find my next, you know, girl and you're in a relationship, and now here you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
He's moving up in
Yeah.
life.
I'm moving on in life. Yeah, we're progressing. Yeah, awesome. So the second
and
part of the
just to answer your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say the second part of the action point.
Yeah. So I would just say, and just really quickly is, I mean, very simply, start, right? Like we want to start publishing. But if you're in this, I don't know, you're hung up and you don't know, okay, great, I'm ready to start, but I don't know what to do. And I would just say, post what you would want to follow. Think about the pages and the content that you follow and what you like about them, and just like imitate it, right? You're not copying, you know, where it's like a plagiarism kind of thing. It's like, okay, because when I first started doing content, and this was years ago when I was in my, you know, my other online business, I'm like, I got to start posting, and I'm posting things that weren't really relevant to like the audience that I already had. I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? And I just started sharing things or imitating, like mimicking things that I liked from other pages I followed. And then from there, I found what my existing audience liked. They wanted more of this and less of that. And that's really what I did. I started posting based on what I liked, what I would want to follow, and actually like what I needed. One of the things that I needed at that time in my life was inspiration. Like I was in a, like, just kind of in a downward spiral, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to just start writing and sharing things that were inspirational because I needed it. And then therefore it resonated with my audience. Wow. So my suggestion is, like, you know, you want to start, like, just start. And then if you're there ready to start, just do the things that you would want to look at. And the people you follow, just kind of find a way to mimic that in your own way, you know, make it your own, and just start there.
Yeah.
Great advice. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Last comment on that real quick.
Yes, bring it.
Don't get hung up in vanity metrics. I've spent too many on likes and comments and stuff like that. And the reality is, the people who have come up to me personally or sent me a direct message about something that I said are people that I'm like, well, where the hell are you? Like, you've never liked or commented on one thing that I've said. Yet if you see them in person or get them in a conversation, they know your entire life story based on what you post. So I would just say, like, the people that you're impacting the most with your message likely aren't showing up in your likes and comments. So don't spend too much time on that. Just really don't spend.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's incredible, Tanya. Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's such an important point.
On that. Like, just keep going.
Yeah. We call them the silent watchers, right? They're right there lurking there. And the second is that you say that one point of contact that they needed to hear, they come to you and they're like, dude, thank you so much. And that's exactly what happened. So those are the people that we really need to pay attention to. And
now the last question, right? This second to last question was good. It was like a whole podcast by its own.
That was juicy. That was juicy.
The last question is, where would you guys be if you have never started publishing?
We would probably still be attempting to make a business model work for us that just wasn't a good fit, and we wouldn't have evolved to, like, really what our passion is. I think we would have been stuck in something stuck, quite frankly, and spending more time and effort on something that, again, just probably wasn't going to work out the way that we wanted to. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that.
I mean, without getting into like major detail, but I would actually say, like, I don't know that even he and I would be together. I mean, if we could take like the big,
if we really reel it back,
reel it back, like we wouldn't even be together. We wouldn't have met. We wouldn't have gotten married. We wouldn't have created our family. We wouldn't have our business. And
we got married because of something she posted on Facebook, and it wasn't a half nude picture.
No,
it was a bowl of food.
It was a bowl of food.
Wow. Was it the last bite? And you're like, she's my type of girl.
She's like, I saved the last bite for you. No,
soulmates.
Yeah. So I mean,
if you want to go real deep, like,
yeah. Wow. I mean, from a business perspective, Tanner's right. But like in the grand scheme of things, like you just don't know where your life will go.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have thought in a million years, like how we met and how this would have all unfolded. Like, yeah, it was all because of a simple social media post that, caught his attention and he messaged me,
Wow.
So, yeah.
Look at you guys. Well, first of all, thank you.
True love. I love this.
The fact that evolved, we love looking at the story of these answers, right? Because now you guys are impacting so many people and helping so many couples, right? Including Fonzie's right here, right? With the last bite and the frameworks. And I love how it all goes full circle. So thank you so much for sharing that. Guys, if you want to learn more, go curvethechaosnow.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
curvethechaosnow.com to sign up for the challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then if you want to go listen to the show, which is incredible, theonerelationship.com or any podcasting platform. Guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit smash that subscribe button and follow us on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right. And if you found this episode impactful and your relationship is going to get way better, please don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.